Hare Krishna, dear devotees, Dandavat Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada. We are reading Bhagavad Gita, chapter 12, Devotional Service or Bhakti Yoga. So we have read till verse 17, and we are reading the qualities of a Vaishnava or the qualities of a devotee that are very dear to Krishna, that make that devotee very dear to Krishna, and Krishna is exceptionally merciful on those people that have those qualities. So we need to read these qualities and we need to try to imbibe these qualities in ourselves. Hare Krishna, Anita Mataji, I just saw your hand raised. You wanted to share? Please go ahead.
Yes, Mataji, it's a request. So today is Puja Mataji's birthday, Puja 2, Puja Kumari. So seeking all of your blessings, all the Vaishnavas here.
Yes.
So that we get, the mercy and she can get to, devotional invocation in herself for Krishna.
Very bold.
So,
Puja 2's birthday, Mataji?
yes, Mataji, it's today.
Okay, Hari Bol, and she's here. Let's before we start even reading, let's wish her. Mataji, if you are okay, please turn on your video. We'll would like to sing for you and glorify you if it's okay. Let's everybody unmute and sing for Mataji. Hare Krishna to you.
Hare Krishna to you.
Hare Krishna to Mataji. Hare Krishna to you.
May Radha Rani
Radharani
bless
bless
you.
you.
May Radha Rani bless you. May Radha Rani
Bless you, dear Puja Mataji.
Mataji.
May
May
Radha
Radha Rani bless you.
May Lord Krishna bless you. May
May
Lord
Lord
Krishna
Krishna
bless
bless
you.
you. May Lord Krishna
Krishna
Bless
bless
you,
you, dear
Puja Mataji.
Mataji.
May
May
Lord
Lord
Krishna
Krishna
bless you.
bless you.
Krishna.
Anchakalpatarubhyacha
Sarveshwara
Kripa
Kripa
Sindhubhya
Sindhubhya
Evacha Patitanam
Patitanamavebhyo
Pavanebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo
Namo
Namo Namah.
Namaha. Haribo.
Hari
Bol.
Hari Bol.
All glories to Puja Mataji.
Thank you,
Haribo.
Prabhuji.
All glories to you, Mataji. Please continue on this path. Um, you know, I can only pray for you. And please, on your end, put in effort. We will all be praying for each other. But you're already under the guidance of Anita Mataji. She's very very advanced herself. So please take directions from her and start chanting on this birthday. This is the gift you can give to Krishna. We don't ask him for anything, we give him gifts. So the gift you can give to him is that from this birthday I decide that I'll chant such and such number of rounds every day, more and more prasadam as much as you can if possible, and just reading Bhagavad Gita, which is all purifying. Please continue. You've started already very young in your life, and you have um, a long way to go. So this is a very good start at this time. Kids your age are busy doing so many other things, not sitting in Bhagavad Gita class, not hearing from their elders about the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. So you are already very much advanced to have even taken that step. This is eternal knowledge. This will not go waste. So at this stage of life, it may seem that, oh, why am I doing this? Why am I wasting my time? My other peers are doing, this or that. But remember that, we've done those things, right? We came to conclusion. All the people, all the devotees you will hear, they have come to this conclusion that that all those material enjoyments were very temporary and they were very um, um, they're not good for you. So they are ultimately they cause our downfall. So Krishna has given this body to not just enjoy, but to use it in his service. So please continue as you're doing. Hari Bol. Please, Anita Mataji and the devotees share.
Yes, no, very, very thankful, Mataji. Thank you so much for your blessings and all the devotees here. We really need, the blessings and mercy for all the youngsters, all the young brain. They have a lot more to offer to Krishna. As they are more young, they have more time to, pay the service to Krishna. So on her birthday, I really wish her that she continues. She has started already. She has started a few months back with the Bhagavad Gita and also chanting. I just want her to maintain the consistency, seeking Krishna's mercy for her, that he bless her for maintaining the consistency on this path. This path is not easy. We all have experienced that it's not easy, but with Krishna's mercy, we can make it happen. So once again, happy birthday to you, Pooja.
Thank you
Happy
so
birthday.
much, Dee.
Anyone else wants to share about Mataji or give her any prayers or blessings?
Hare Krishna, Puja Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you for
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
thank you for joining the class. It's very inspiring, and that you have a wonderful support in the form of your sister. So if I were you, I would take full advantage, of all the inputs that you can get. I think, as Mataji rightly said, very, very, very blessed to start, all this process at a very young age. So I wish you all the very best and hope you can progress by leaps and bounds. Wish you a very happy birthday, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. It means a lot.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. All glories
Hare
to Shri
Krishna,
Krishna.
Prabhuji.
So Mataji, what are you doing?
I'm preparing for NET, that is pre-medical examination, and I got something about 20,000 rank and waiting for counseling and I think it may start very soon.
Very bold, very nice. Wishing you all the best, Mataji. In this special day, and just
Thank you
as
so much.
all the other devotees said, we, as Natasha was saying, that we have all, been through this process, and um, in the medical field also. I just wanted to tell you one thing, that things keep coming, and we keep thinking and procrastinating Krishna consciousness, which is not the best for us. You are doing excellent. I'm talking about myself. Initially it was 10th boards, then 12th boards, then it is getting into medical school, then it is first year, bas ye ho jaye, and then yeah, then it is bas pass ho jaye ek baar job lag jaye. Things actually keep getting more, in our life keeps in, Maya is so strong. It keeps and entangling us more and more as time goes on. And the more more time you have in this world, the more it, the bonds of Maya get stronger over time, with family, with so many other things, right? So you are doing excellent, Mataji. Keep going on this path, and remember, there's no better time than now to start and to continue and to increase our spiritual endeavors. So we are just talking from, we're not from experience, in terms of whatever little experience we have, that I can just share that I got in touch with Krishna consciousness during my medical school's first second year, kind of very similar to about your age, close to that. But then I missed the opportunity. I missed the train for a long, long time, and only recently, by the mercy of Krishna and devotees, have been able to kind of get back on the path. But again, who knows, right? again, from my personal experience, my brother left his body when he was 21. So we don't know like what time, what will happen. So we should start and keep working on this process. Like today is the last day. Like I won't get another chance. So this is wonderful, Mataji, that you're doing this, and all the best for all the spiritual and material endeavors. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Okay, we both. Let's finish our last few verses of Bhagavad Gita, and then we'll see if we have time to talk more. Okay, Puja Mataji, since you're here, would you like to recite this verse?
Ji Mataji.
Hold on, let me make it big. So this is, we are reading text 18 and 19. Would you like to recite it and we'll follow you? You can do one line at a time, or
Okay.
you want to try?
Yes, Mataji. I want to try. Sama satrau cha mitre cha tata mana manaya yoha sitoshana sukha dukheshu sama sangha vivarjita.
Be bold. Mataji, you can sing it like this. You said it very nicely. Now just insert a little tune into it. Sama shatrau cha mitre cha
Sama
Satrau cha mitre cha
tatha manapamanayo
तथा मानपमानयोः
shitoshana sukha dukkeshu
Toshana
शीतोष्णसुखदुःखेषु
sama sangha vivarjita.
समः सङ्गविवर्जितः
Varjita
Tulya nindastu tirmoni
Tulya ninda
तुल्यनिन्दास्तुतिर्मौनी
santushto yena kenachit
सन्तुष्टो येन क्वचित्
Kenachit
aniketa sthira matir
अनिकेता स्थिरामते
bhakti man me priyo nara.
भक्ति मे प्रियो नरः.
You want to read the translation?
Ji Mataji. One who is equal to friends and enemies, who is equipoised in honor and dishonor, heat and cold, happiness and distress, fame and infamy, who is always free from contaminating association, always silent and satisfied with anything, who doesn't care for any residence, who is fixed in knowledge and who is engaged in devotional service. Such a person is very dear to me.
Very bold. Thank you for reading, Mataji. So this is a combination of two verses, and Krishna is repeating some of the qualities. We have already read a lot of the qualities before, right? We'll review them at the end. But in this verse, he's saying sama shatrau cha mitre cha, that a person who is equal to both the enemy and the friend. So basically, this verse actually, in both these verses, actually, there are various aspects of equanimity being given, like how a person is equal in different situations or to different people. That aspect is given many times. So equal to both the Shatru and Mitra, or to enemy and friend. Tatha man apamanayo. Also, he is equal in both man and apman, in fame or infamy, honor or dishonor, right? Shitoshna, in sheath or ushna, meaning heat or cold. Sukha dukkha means happiness and distress. Sama sangha vivarjita, and free from all association. So free from all association means sangha means association, but typically when word sangha is used in various verses, it means material association. Okay, it does not mean that he is free from like association of devotees or free from association of scriptures. No, it means material association. So sangha vivarjita, sama sangha vivarjita. So he's sama or equipoised, equal in these various situations like heat and cold, sukh and dukh, right? We've talked about this many times, happiness and distress. We know that these things are part of human life, right? They'll come and go, just like the seasons. Krishna says these things are fixed in our life. One has to take birth, one will get old, one will get the disease, one will die, and during that course of life, one will have some honor, some dishonor, some happiness, some distress, but they'll come and go, right? Just like the distress came, actually Prahlad Maharaj says very nicely in 7th canto, just like the distress came, the dukh came without asking, right? You didn't ask for it, you didn't try for it, you were not trying for dukkhas, nobody asks for dukkha, but it came nonetheless, it came regardless. Similarly, the happiness, you don't have to try too hard for it, you don't have to keep worrying about it, it will also come. It is just the nature, that is the nature of the time. We've talked about nature of the kal or time, that the way the wheels of time turn, there will be this up, then it'll keep turning. So whatever was up before will be down the next day or few months later, then the other thing will come up, then it will go down. So in this way, day and night, heat and cold, happiness and distress, fame and infamy, right? Good situation, bad situation, different circumstances will keep coming in life. But Krishna likes those devotees, those people that are equal in these various situations, that learn to tolerate them just like they tolerate the seasons, right? We don't complain when summer or winter comes, right? We just tolerate it. We put extra clothing for winters, or shed an extra layer, or for summers take extra cold shower in summer, something like that. We devise our ways, but we don't have to complain for heat and cold. Similarly, when situation comes of happiness or distress or anything like that, a devotee devises its ways to tolerate it, to just get through that time. And that is why the famous saying comes, right? This too shall pass. Because with the time, it does pass, right? So whatever is hounding you today, whatever is bothering you today, it may not be there, a few days later, or a few months, or even few years later. So no point wasting time on it. That is why griye thako, vanne thako, Hari Katha Karo, right? That means in whichever situation you are, whether you are today in a good residence or whether you are in a forest, you just do Hari Katha. You just chant the names of Krishna. Don't waste time, because you will look back on that time and you'll say, it was not in my control anyways. It was never in my control, but I just kept wasting my time worrying about it. So devotee doesn't worry about it. He just leaves everything to Krishna and surrenders to the lotus feet of Krishna and does not waste time worrying or anxious about the future, because neither you cannot change the past for sure, but the future you can just make your choices today to decide the future tomorrow. So make the choice of choosing Krishna always over Maya, and your future will get better. Krishna will also keep choosing you, right? So whatever choices we make today decide our future tomorrow, right? I know we're talking to Pooja Mataji, who's in a very difficult time right now. She's waiting for her results. But a few years later, when you have graduated from medical school and all, you will look back on this time and you will think, oh, I was worrying unnecessarily. Now I have graduated, now I've become a doctor. That time does not even matter anymore. So at this time, you don't need to sit and worry about the results. You just leave everything to Krishna. Krishna, you do whatever you think is best for me, right? I surrender unto you. Whatever you deem best for me, you just do that. And then accept his decision with grace and move on. Move on. Accept it. So that is the mood of a devotee, right? So we've talked about this many times. These are the various aspects of being equipoised in various situations and being an equanimous, right? And then second shloka is also in the same theme. Tulya ninda stutir. So ninda means criticism. Stuti means like honor, when people are glorifying you, right? Stuti means to glorify somebody. Ninda means to criticize somebody. So a devotee treats both those situations same, whether he is being defamed or criticized, or if he is being glorified, or has a very good reputation, famous, popular right now. People are honoring you, showering you with glories. In both situations, he remains same. He does not get puffed up when he's being glorified, and he does not get completely downcast when he's being criticized, right? So he's oblivious to both criticism and accept excessive glories, right? So when somebody, and actually glories are okay, but criticism is the situation that we need to know how to manage, because that brings us down, right? When somebody criticizes you, or when somebody points faults in you, finds faults in you, right? How should we behave? How should we act? So internally, again, all these things are a matter of internals. Internally, a devotee holds no grudges, right? So either that person has some thoughts which by which they are criticizing you, so you accept those faults and you try to work on yourself, or if you think that it is an excessive criticism, then you can, just for your own mental health, stay away from such people who have a tendency of fault finding, right? So tulya ninda stuti, but internally he does not hold any grudges. Externally he may try to protect himself. Similarly with glories, actually, devotees are very shy when they are being excessively glorified. You will see in the demeanor of like pure devotees, they don't like to be excessively glorified. Amoglila Prabhu once said, on Vyas Puja, we are always glorifying our spiritual master, right? Everybody comes and narrates all these big documents of glories to them, right? He said, our Guru has to tolerate it. He has to like sit, and he's just chanting. He's just immersed in Krishna. He's not even actually paying very much heed to what you are saying, because he's completely immersed in Krishna. So that's how they just tolerate the glories that are, that are being given to them. Whereas what would we do? We'll get all puffed up. Yeah, he's, glorifying me. I am something after all. This is me. I did it. We are always trying to take credit. I did it, trying to tell the whole world. It is because of me that this happened. It is because of me that this person did that. Whatever. So we are always trying to take credit. And for the other person, we are always trying to find faults. And that is actually nature of our mind. It is the nature of an uncontrolled mind to find fault in others and to take credit for oneself. Another lecture I heard, they said that when somebody finds fault in you, there is no bigger lawyer than you yourself. You will become the biggest. Suddenly you will know all the law books. You will know how to protect yourself. If somebody finds fault in you, you'll become the lawyer. And for others, you will become a judge. He did this, he did that, so you, as a judge, you will find faults in everybody, but when somebody finds faults with you, you will become a lawyer and defend yourself the best. So that is not how a devotee conducts himself, right? You tolerate both criticism and glories in an equal way. Okay, the next is Mani. So Mani means silent. So silent doesn't mean that the devotee is just sitting silent. Mani here means that he speaks what is good or what is right. His speech is very pleasing to others. His speech is not, again, not critical, not full of fault finding for others. His speech is not full of resentment or to express your anger or those things. The speech is not full of hatred. The speech is very pleasing. Speech, typically, if it is aligned with Harikatha or you speak your scriptural knowledge, right? If you train your speech to speak Harikatha, then that is a proper mood of a Mani. So when he speaks Harikatha or relevant things relevant to Krishna consciousness or pleasing things to others, things that do not agitate others, right? We read before, right? Devotee does not agitate others. And he does not get agitated by others. So that's the kind of speech. On speech, much can be said, because actually our tongue has a very important function of speech, and it is very important to control that tongue. That is why we try to train it by speaking Harikatha. And another way we can train it is by reciting verses or reciting prayers, right? That's why that task is given by the devotees to us, to recite verses. So you're not wasting time speaking ill things about others or speaking ill or lamenting, complaining, right? Criticizing, not those things, but just speak verses, just speak prayers. So you use your tongue in singing songs, of singing Vaishnava bhajan, singing verses, singing prayers, or doing Harikatha, right? So that is the best destiny of the tongue. Everything has a destiny. That is the best destiny for the tongue. Santushto means satisfied. So santushto yen kenachit. Yen means in whatever he gets. He's satisfied with whatever he gets. So the devotee, or Krishna is saying that the person that is dear to me is not hankering too much after many things, right? He's very, very satisfied. He does not have very many unnecessary desires. Ye bhi chahiye, wo bhi chahiye, ye bhi kar lun, wo bhi kar lun. You know, not so many unsatisfied desires, not so many hankerings from this world, especially from the material world. One should be satisfied. Like whatever I get, for example, um, it is said that three things one should be satisfied with. You all will like this one. Three things one should be satisfied with. One, one spouse. So, so all the married people who like to complain and are wondering, oh, if we should have married somebody else, or we would be in a better situation, better place. The first thing one should be satisfied with is one spouse. Okay. Second thing, one should be satisfied with whatever food we get. Okay, food meaning that, you know, if today you don't get like chappan bhog, you don't, just, you know, whatever meager, whatever you get, accept it, right? And this is Krishna's prasad, Krishna's grace. Say a prayer, accept it. So whatever food you get, accept it. And third thing is one's income. So with income also, we should not think, oh, if only I could make more. Let me work a little extra hard. So if I do this one extra shift today, one night shift extra, something like that, I'll get so much money more, right? If I have one extra, I don't know, for business people, they open so many businesses. If I have one more hotel, one more chain of this or that, I will do more. I'll get more. I'll make more money. The problem with all those things is when you hanker for more income, more money, will keep getting entangled, because then there will be more material uh, engagements to deal with, right? So we have to free up our time for spiritual endeavors. We don't have to fill up our time with material endeavors. So, for example, in as far as spouse is concerned, I was reading Lilamrit, and Prabhupada's example came. Okay, you know, Prabhupada's wife, he was not very happy with her. She was not very congenial to his spiritual progress, and she was not very nice. This is how it is described in Lilamrit, and you can all read. And so he he told his father that, you know, his father, Gaur Mohan De, is a pure devotee of the Lord. He was a very high level Vaishnava. He told his son that, you know, this is the wife that Krishna gave to you. You have to make your peace with it and do your best, and you have to serve her. You have to serve your kids, and you cannot abandon her. You cannot go looking anywhere for any other wife, because he was in the mood of marrying somebody else, since this wife was not, you know, very nice. But he said, no, this is what we have been given by Krishna, and this is what you accept. So anyway, so those are the three things. But if we keep hankering for more and more, we keep getting entangled more and more and can never be satisfied. But we've talked about the concept of santusht or satisfaction before also, that hankering for more, complaining all the time, lamenting all the time, criticizing others, those things cause dissatisfaction. Having expectations. Krishna said, be anapeksha. Don't have too many expectations from people. Right? Anyone wants to share anything?
No, Mataji, I mean, it just came to the same concept a person can use in day-to-day life of being santushta, where there's a difference between need and want, and it will make a big difference in the environment and in the whole world. You know, we always are looking for what we want. We are never satisfied what we need. So same knowledge is coming from Gita. It just has to be applied in our day-to-day life. Do we want this or do we need this?
Yes, Prabhuji, that's perfect. Yes. So accept what is just needed for your Krishna consciousness, for your spiritual progress, whatever home, income, food, family members, we cannot change those things. We should not strive too hard to keep changing those things. They're what is called prayas. Prayas means unnecessary material endeavors. You should not do unnecessary material endeavors or prayas. Okay. Aniketa. Aniketa means, so Niketan. Niketan means residence, like a place where somebody lives, right? So Aniketa is having no residence. Aniketa. So somebody who's not very attached to the place where they live, like a mendicant basically, right? So pure devotees of the Lord, they're not very attached to that particular residence. If for Krishna service they have to go live somewhere else, then they're easily able to quit that place and go somewhere else, right? This is all Krishna's earth. So you can find Krishna consciousness anywhere. Once in Australia, devotees were captured and put in the jail. And so, Prabhupada and everybody was trying to get them acquitted. They were captured because they were doing Harinam Kirtan. And so some devotee expressed concern to Prabhupada. Prabhupada, they have captured our devotees and put them in the jail. Huh? And it will take so many days to get them out. So Prabhupada said, don't worry. Don't worry, they will be completely fine in there. If anything, they will be spreading Krishna consciousness. They'll be doing Hari Katha and Japa in there, chanting in there, and they'll be spreading Harinam. So don't worry, they'll purify the jail also. So in whatever situation a devotee lives, he will always be, internally he's always very satisfied. He does not need a very comfortable, great residence to live in, right? In any kind of meager means, he's living like Shabri when she was a Kinchan, right? When she had nothing, nowhere to go, nothing to do, she was still completely in bliss, right? She was completely connected to Krishna. Similarly, Pandavas, right? When they were turned out of their house, go on Vanvas and Agyatwas, right? They were living suddenly from living in palaces like kings and queens with so many people to serve them. Now they are living like mendicants in the jungle, wearing nothing but meager loin cloth or something like that, nothing to eat but grass and roots and fruits and some things like that. So suddenly they were turned out like that, but they were, completely okay. They were in complete bliss all the time, and they just focused on their spiritual progress, right? I'm again forgetting that line, that song. Sitaram, 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 kahiye, chahe vidhi rakhe Ram, tahe vidhi rahiye. Yes, that one. So yeah, so whatever situation Lord decides to put us in, you just make the best of it. So Aniketa. Sthiramatir. Sthiramatir means somebody who is fixed in their determination. So they're fixed in their determination on this path, right? Vyavasyatmika buddhi, one-minded intelligence. Bhaktiman me priyo nara. And that Bhaktiman, I like that word Krishna has devised, Bhaktiman. We always talk about Superman and Wonder Woman and what else? Spider-Man, and this is Bhakti Man, Bhaktiman. So
India,
Bhaktiman,
there was Shaktiman.
Shaktiman, in India, Shaktiman. There are so many mans or mans like that. So this is Bhaktiman, right? So Bhaktiman me priyo nara. So this kind of devotee is very dear to me. Okay, anybody else wants to share? I think this is a little bit of repetition from the similar qualities that we have discussed before, so we can go a little quick. But please share any stories come to mind, any scriptural references come to mind. You're most welcome. But all the devotees throughout our scriptures, pure devotees of the Lord, they have exhibited all these qualities. That's why I was saying that if we read the scriptures, all these qualities, just not by reading them, but by seeing how they're applying this in their life, you will feel very inspired, right? How people are santusht, how people are completely satisfied, even with meager means, how they are like not going back into the scriptures, but I'll give an example of His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj. If you have read Journey Home, please read. If you have not, he left the comforts of his home in US. Remember, he was not in touch with Prabhupada. It's not like he had come to any spiritual realization. He just had this inner calling that this kind of such a comfortable living cannot be the best thing to do. So he just left his home. He told his parents that I'm going on this journey and I will come back. But on his ways, he was completely a kinchan. He had nothing. He had no food to eat, he had no clothes on him, and he reached India like that. He had not even met Prabhupada yet. And he's just living in the foothills of Himalaya, just meditating, just looking at just getting inspiration from the nature, looking at Ganga, looking at Himalayas, and just getting inspiration and getting in touch with his inner self, right? But he was living like that, aniketa, completely satisfied with whatever he would get. And when he came in touch with Prabhupada, he saw Krishna's picture on Krishna book and he wanted to buy that book. He had no money. So he went begging on the streets to buy Krishna book. He asked, but he was too shy to even beg. He's just begging money from people and he's too shy to beg. And devotees found him. Like, what are you doing? He said, I want money so that I can buy this book with the on the cover of whom I saw this bluish black boy. I love this boy. I want this book. I want to read it. So devotees took him back to Prabhupada. Prabhupada, he was begging on the streets to try to buy Krishna book. So, when one is completely surrendered to Krishna, completely akinchan like that, Krishna shows mercy. So there are references, there are examples from lives of devotees peppered throughout our scriptures, throughout not only recent examples like this one I gave, but so many through our scriptures that you can take advantage of and learn from them. Okay, if you're okay, we'll go to the next one. Okay, who would like to read? Well, let me recite and we'll follow. 12.20. Yes, Prabhuji, you want to, or Vedai, you want to recite this and we'll follow?
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Ye tu dharmamritam idam.
Ye tu
Etu
dharmamritam idam
dharmamritam idam
Yatoktam paryupashate.
yathoktam
yathoktam
paryupasate
paripasate
Shraddhatnamat parama.
shraddhadhana
shraddhadhana
matparma
Bhaktaste diva me priya.
bhaktaste tiva
bhaktaste
me
tiva
priyah.
me priya.
You want me to read the translation?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Those who follow this imperishable path of devotional service and who completely engage themselves with faith, making me the supreme goal, are very, very dear to me.
Hari bol.
Very well.
Oh, Hari Bol, I didn't realize we had reached the last verse. I just realized when you read the translation. Okay, so we are on 20th verse. This is amazing. Those who follow this imperishable path. So dharma amritam, right? If you break this word, it's dharma meaning religion, amrit means nectar, or you can say amrit, the one that has no maran, right? Amrit, that is eternal, that is imperishable. So that is why Prabhupada is calling it imperishable path. So like eternal or sanatan. So this is the dharmamritam or sanatan dharma. So this sanatan dharma, ye tu dharmamritam idam, yathoktam paryupasate. Like I have said, if somebody completely engages in this eternal dharma, shraddha dhana, so with faith, mat parma, making me the supreme goal, those devotees are very dear to me. So how do we practice this sanatan dharma, this dharmamritam, this eternal imperishable path? With full faith, according to as I have said, yathoktam paryupasate, worship me with full faith. And how? Considering me supreme. Okay, mat parma, making me the supreme lord, and following my instructions. If worships me with full faith and follows this sanatan dharma, then that devotee is very dear to me. So sanatan dharma by definition means to fully, in full faith, completely follow the instructions of Krishna. Krishna is saying this himself here. And this is the end of Bhakti Yoga chapter. Thus ends the Bhakti Vedanta purports of the 12th chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of devotional service. Very bold. So this is the way to follow the Sanatan Dharma, by considering Krishna the Supreme, not any other, but with Ananya Chetasa, meaning considering me, with worshipping me with exclusive devotion, right? Ananya Chintento Mam. So keeping me in the center. If one becomes a devotee, engages in complete devotional service, then that is the eternal dharma or dharma amritam, Sanatan Dharma. So basically, Krishna gave us all the qualities of a devotee, and the highest quality of those is this last verse. The highest quality is to engage in the complete devotional service. And remember, I don't know if all of you were there, but when we started discussing the qualities of a devotee, there were two types of qualities. One was called Swarup Lakshan, and the other was called Tatastha Lakshan, right? So the Swarup Lakshan is the one in which a devotee engages in devotional service. Swarup Lakshan means to realize their Swarup. So that is Swarup Lakshan, meaning to engage in the devotional service, and Tatastha Lakshan means to have these all other qualities. But when one has the quality of devotional service or Swarup Lakshan, the other qualities which are secondary come by themselves. So even if today we don't have any of those qualities Krishna mentioned, right? We have so many desires, so many hankerings, we like to criticize, we like to do fault finding, we are not satisfied, we like to live in a comfortable residence, we are not steady in our determination, we have too many expectations. So I'm saying all opposite things, right? Right? All opposite. We are not equipoised in happiness and distress. We are not equal to enemy and friend. We don't have any qualities, let's say. But if one has this one quality, that we are ready to engage in the devotional service of the Lord, then the other qualities will spontaneously manifest in the personality of that person. So, and that is what Prabhupada's teaching was, that you don't have to give up anything. You don't have to artificially try to do anything. You don't have to try to fake it. Okay, a lot of people say fake it until you make it. You don't have to try to fake it. All you have to do is add Krishna in your life, and slowly your purification will start happening, and these qualities will start coming. So we don't have to artificially try to say that, oh, I'm the most humble person, I'm the most fallen soul, I'm the most tolerant, I'm always equipoised in everything, I'm the sthit pragya. No, you don't have to artificially try to have these qualities. These qualities will spontaneously come with the devotional service of the Lord. And we have this knowledge that this is what is dear to Krishna. Now engage in devotional service, add Krishna, and we will start getting purified, right? Automatically, because when you start engaging in devotional service, you will associate with devotees that have these qualities. And those qualities you will start imbibing, because you will see how their acharan is, and then you will also start having that kind of acharan. You will read Bhagavad Gita when you're engaging in devotional service. You will see that Krishna has listed these qualities and he likes them. So let me also try a little bit more to have these, right? You will eat prasadam automatically. Prasadam is all purifying. So it will start purifying your anarthas, right? You will engage in chanting and harikatha and kirtan and those things. But the name is so potent that it will purify all these bad qualities. So these secondary qualities, the Tatastha Lakshan, will start coming with the practice of Bhakti Yoga. So that is the end of the Bhakti Yoga portion of Bhagavad Gita. Very bold. Taken like a year to finish the middle 6 chapters, which is the crest jewel of Bhagavad Gita. It is compared to like a pearl sitting in an oyster shell, right? Or like you can say like a jewelry case. There is a diamond sitting. So the top lid, the bottom lid, and in between there is a diamond sitting. So this is the diamond of Bhakti Yoga, the middle 6 chapters. The top lid was when we opened the lid, the top lid was the first 6 chapters, which was mostly dealing with Karma Yoga. The middle 6 chapters, which is the diamond itself, was the Bhakti Yoga. And the bottom lid is the Gyan Yoga. So we'll deal with from 13th to 18th, the Gyan Yoga portion of Bhagavad Gita. Very bold. Would anyone like to share? Please add your thoughts, realizations.
Hare Krishna. I was thinking that when we are discussing that about the qualities, about when somebody is glorifying, how to take it. I've seen some devotees very nicely also say, or they take it in the attitude that I don't have any of these qualities, but these are the qualities that I need to develop. So it is like they take it like instruction. Like, let's say somebody is saying that you are really very humble. So if somebody says to me, and I know in the core of my heart that no, that is not true. I have an ego, I have a false ego. So, but I take it as an instruction that this devotee is telling me that, or not necessarily that they are telling in that mood, but we take it in the mood that I need to be more humble. I need to learn from this. Hare Krishna. So that's just one other thing that I came to my mind when we were having this discussion, that how to take, because actually it's easier to take it's easy to take the glories and take it for ourselves, and that just inflates our false ego and thus binds us more. So it is very important to be more careful of actually glory, because again it is it just inflates our false ego and makes us more bound to this body than to a spirit. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Haribol. So did everyone understand the point Prabhuji, Nirbhay Prabhu made? Yeah. So basically what he said was that when somebody glorifies you, don't take it as your own glory, but take it as an instruction that I have to become like this, right? When somebody says, oh, Mataji, you are a very, like he gives the example of humble, a very humble devotee. So you say, okay, I'm not humble. So that means I need to become humble. So take it as an instruction. Don't take the glory for yourself. Oh, yes, I'm very humble. That's not humility, really. So a submissive devotee in the right mood would take it as, okay, this is my instruction to become humble, right? So, and then by doing this, the main thing is in devotional service, the main thing is, and there is no progress without this. The main thing is causeless mercy of Hari Guru Vaishnav, right? Right? Remember that song, Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaishnav Bhagavat Gita. So we have to attract the mercy of Hari Guru Vaishnav and Bhagavad Gita. So when we are trying to imbibe these qualities, even though we may fail miserably, even though we may not have that much potency on our own to become this kind of person that is dear to Krishna, but by the mercy of Hari Guru Vaishnava and scriptures, Hari Guru Sadhu Shastra, we can become that person, right? So you pray intensely to not only to Krishna, but also to Guru, to Sadhu, to Shastras, then please make me this person, attract their causeless mercy, attract the blessings, right? When we were talking about scriptures, we were talking about demons and devotees, right? The main difference between demons and devotees is that devotees are dependent on the mercy of Krishna, whereas demons are trying to achieve everything with their own, powers and efforts and trying to establish their own lordship. So they do not recognize the authority of Krishna. That is the main difference. So if we recognize the authority of Krishna, be submissive, not in a challenging mood, very, very submissively beg for the mercy of the Hari Guru Vaishnava and scriptures. And we'll get that mercy. So, causeless mercy is something completely not decided. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen this lecture of Amoghleela Prabhu. He says that there are 6 things that are decided in our life, right? Happiness and distress, fame and infamy, right? I think birth and death, like the time when we are born and die. Birth and death, fame and infamy, and happiness and distress. These 6 things are fixed in our life. But things that are not fixed in our life is what will be our reaction to these problems, right? How will we deal? How will we react to this problem when happiness comes, when distress comes, when fame or infamy comes? Our reaction is not written, is not decided. Astrology cannot predict how you would respond. Secondly, bhakti is not decided. Bhakti is something that people decide to take by free will. So I want to erase that conception where people think that bhakti is decided by karma. No, it is not decided by karma. Bhakti is decided by the causeless mercy of the Hari Guru Vaishnava. It is decided by um, what is called Bhakti Unmukhi Sukriti. That if you have um, you one day you just randomly praised a devotee. You just randomly said, "Oh, look!" I remember Rakshita Mataji, one of our devotees from other association. She said, "I would see these devotees dancing on the street and say, oh wow, these people look very nice. They are such great devotees of the Lord." And the other person sitting next to me would blaspheme. He'd say, "What? These people are such a nuisance. They have nothing better to do. They are intelligent, intellectual people, and they're doing kirtan on the streets." And Rakshita Mataji would protect them. You know, we should not say this against devotees of the Lord. And she's not in Krishna consciousness. What happens that gives you sukriti? So when we say nice things about devotees or people that are dear to the Lord, right? This gives us sukriti, and by sukriti comes that causeless mercy, and we get the devotional service one day. So bhakti is not written in our life; it is decided by our own free will whether we want this. I think yesterday you heard the lecture of Vilas Prabhu who said about the choices we make, right? So the choices we make, uh, happiness and distress comes to everybody, but what choice we decide, what choices we make in our life, they're dependent on our free will. So those things are not written. They cannot be predicted by any astrologer. What choices we will make, whether we will choose Krishna or Maya one day, whether we will um, um, what reaction we will have to a problem, those things are completely based on our free will. Okay, Ribol. We have some new devotees today, I saw. We have Poonam Mataji joining. Welcome, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Hari Krishna.
Mataji, we try to do this in English because of the kids. Kids are best able to understand in English. But please keep reading Prabhupada's books and it will become easier to understand. There are some Hindi sessions also I will share with you.
Okay, Mataji.
And thank you, Priya Mataji, for joining. We've seen you after many days. I think Mansi also joined for a few minutes. Mansi and Priya Mataji joined. Today we are very blessed to have your association. I know you get able guidance from Anita Mataji, but please feel free to join with us also. We're doing a Kahoot quiz next time and starting with 13th chapter after that. So if you want to know how Bhagavad Gita ends, what are the ending instructions of Krishna, please join with us. Very bold. Okay. Anyone wants to add anything or share anything? If not, let's chant.
Hare Krishna, may I ask a question?
Yes, Mataji, please.
Hare, in 12.16 in the purport, one of the examples Prabhupada is giving is constructing a big building requires great energy, and a devotee does not take to such business if it does not benefit him by advancing in devotional service. He may construct a temple for the Lord, and for that he may take all kinds of anxiety, but he does not construct a big house for his personal relations. And I'm sure you must have discussed this, and we kind of missed it last time, which I understand what he's trying to say here with context to the devotional service. My question is just for benefit of all of us, when we are working in day to day, how should we apply this? Like, you said those three things: spouse and food and money. That those are like we need to kind of be satisfied. So as far as money, like during work, we are kind of expecting, like, after some point of service, we want to raise, we want to work hard, we want to acquire new skills. So how should we kind of apply these kind of teachings and still grow in our area of expertise or whatever we are doing, and then and also be in the devotional service?
Yes, Mataji, very nice question. So I'll answer from what I understand and what I do, or how I um, um, treat this particular situation, and then let's see what everybody else has to say. So definitely, Mataji, when a devotee does something, right, everything becomes spiritual, right? He takes everything, he does everything in relation to Krishna. He is always Krishna conscious, right? That is what something Arjun asked very early on in the Bhagavad Gita, actually, in chapter 2. How does a normal person, how does a devotee walk, eat, conduct himself? What does he say? Things like that. And as far as we understand, Prabhupada's teachings are that a devotee is all his activities are always spiritual, right? Even at work, even though it looks like he's working like a normal karmi, but he is working in Krishna consciousness, right? Whereas the karmi is working for his sense gratification, right? So so your point is very important, that we definitely should be making progress in our material life. Okay, we just have to balance it with the spiritual. It should be in should be in such a way that it is not posing undue hindrance on your spiritual progress. Like that is why Prabhupada, I think, gave an example of constructing a building, which seems like a very big prayas, very big material endeavor, where you would have to invest a lot of time, energy, resources, income, right? All that money that you could have used for some Krishna conscious activity, and you could have lived yourself in like a meager means or smaller, lower means, right? Um, so that's why Prabhupada gave such a big example. Now, as far as our material endeavors are concerned, we should definitely be expert at what we do. That is one of the qualities. A devotee is always a daksha. So he's expert at. We have to inspire other people. It should not never be that somebody is a devotee that they are not able to advance in their material progress. It should be the other way. Because they are a devotee, they are able to advance in their material life also, meaning that the spiritual um, life should be giving fuel to the material life, right? So if you should definitely be able to fulfill all your potencies and tendencies that you have. Everybody's born with some inherent potencies, right? Like, let's say I want to be a doctor. If I did not become a doctor, I would not be able to do justice. If I did not do my job properly, I would not be able to do justice to spiritual life either, right? So unless I am fulfilling that potency of mine, which comes from this body, like if I do not fulfill that intelligence and capabilities, right, I will not be able to do justice to my spiritual life either. So everybody should acquire proper skills to conduct their job nicely. They should be advancing on the material path to their satisfaction. But we should not keep hankering more and more. It should not be in such a way that we are never satisfied. There should be an end limit, or there should be um, it should be balanced with the spiritual life. It should not be in such a way that it will completely my spiritual life will go topsy-turvy, right? It's like the example of the bird and the cage comes, right? You do have to keep the cage clean and feed the bird simultaneously. You have to do both. It should not be that you are cleaning the cage so much, you're painting it golden, then you are putting jewels on it, then you're putting lace on it. You're doing so much that you forget to feed the bird. It should be enough that you are happy with the cage and also you're able to feed the bird. So it should be both. But you cannot say, I will not clean the cage at all because I'm so spiritually enlightened that I'll let the bird live in a dirty condition. No, because if that is not fulfilled, if your material endeavors are not fulfilled, then you will not be satisfied in your spiritual life also, right? So there are many examples of this actually. I'll give you very straightforward example. Somebody will say, why, you said Yudhishthir Maharaj, Pandavas, they are great devotees of the Lord. Why were they living in so much opulence? Why do they need to have so many servants and ornaments and jewels, and their clothing are always nice? Why? I mean, they're pure devotee of the Lord. They should be living a very simple life. Why are they living such an opulent life? You always call them pure devotee of the Lord, but they're living such an opulent life. So the answer to this is that everybody is born with their own, like their own tendencies, their own potencies that they have to fulfill. If they don't fulfill those, like as a kshatriya, or as a king, if they don't fulfill those, if they're not living like that, they may not be able to advance on their. I mean, they are pure devotees, but I'm saying in general, let's say for us, like we have a comfortable house, and somebody else may be living in a very small, right, hut. Doesn't mean that you compare their spiritual or devotional service based on the externals. That's not how it goes. The externals, the material advancement is just to make a foundation, right? It is just to satisfy that person. ऐसे कहते हैं ना कि basic needs are not met, roti kapda makan. And now if basic needs of material progress are not met, then spiritual progress is also very difficult to start. Spirituality is sometimes a luxury, not a, this is the question that was actually posed by Prabhupada to Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, that you're talking about spreading Krishna consciousness, but our country is not even independent. So we should have at least independence, right? Before we spread Krishna consciousness, who will take our word? But he said, no, Krishna consciousness cannot wait, right? But it is true that, once we got independent and Prabhupada had all the resources, he was able to settle his family life. He showed that in his own life. He settled his family life. He took sannyas properly. He started giving lectures in English, started preparing in Vrindavan, started giving lectures in English so he can fine tune his English before going to US, right? So he did settle his material things very nicely before he started on such spiritual endeavors. So I think we have to have a balance of both, not excessive prayas that will completely disturb the spiritual life, and yet it should satisfy us. The material life should be such that it satisfies us. Please, anybody else has any thoughts? Add and share. Yes, Prabhuji. Ravi Prabhu.
Yes, Mataji, just to add on to what you explained so well, I've heard from senior devotee in this line, and as you said, the basic necessities are must before you add the spirituality into your life. And so they have given a hierarchy like you have to first take care of your health. If your health is not good, you cannot do anything, whether material or spiritual. So first, always health, then take care of your family and the bhakta, devotees, and then everything will fall in line. So spiritual practice will fall in line too. So and then the other question that she's saying, like how if we are satisfied with our money and everything, should we not ask for raise and this and that? See, those are the again the conditional duty. If we are doing our conditional duty along with the constitutional duty, so conditional duty, whatever is requirement, we have to pursue that and we have to ask for it. It's not that we are going to be satisfied whatever I'm making for last 5 years. That's not the satisfaction definition here. So basically, the point to me is like if I'm satisfied with whatever money I'm making, if I can work less and make more money in the less time, that time I can use for my spiritual practice. So this is how I look at it. So don't work like like gadha जिसको बोलते हैं 10 hours 12 hours and then you don't have time for. So increase your expertise, increase your as you say daksha, one of the quality. You have to be expert. So if you know your area and you're expert, then you can make more money in less time, and that way you can even retire early. That's what lot of Krishna conscious bhakta are planning on, so they can make sufficient to live their life and retire early, so that way they have enough money to support after they retire. They don't have to become dependent on temple or others. So this is all goes along with that. Take care of the constitutional duty and the conditional duty, but the first is always like health. So that's what I wanted to add, Mataji.
Yes, Hare Krishna. Like, very nice point. So I forgot to address that point actually about raise that you asked, Madhuri. Prabhuji addressed that very nicely. Yeah, work intelligently. Don't work hard. Don't just work hard. हमको बचपन से सिखाया जाता है ना work hard. No, don't work hard. That is the first injunction. Yeah, because it is shram eva hi kevalam. Bhagavatam says it is shram eva hi kevalam. It is vyarth ka shram. It is useless labor. So you don't need to do useless labor. Work intelligent, don't work hard. Okay. So that work hard wala concept is bogus. So we have to work intelligently, efficiently, don't work hard. But like Prabhuji said, and you have read in Bhagavatam actually, I think you were there that day, how the money should be divided, right? How money should be used. 50% money should be used in Krishna's service. So if you are making more, then you can contribute more also to Krishna's seva, right? So by improving your skills, efficiency, intelligence, and in material endeavors, if you can make more, then you can also contribute more towards Krishna conscious purposes, whether it's making a temple, whether it's distributing prasadam, whatever spiritual endeavors, you can also contribute more. So 50% money should go to spiritual purposes. Rest of the 50%, 25% is given to the family, and 25% is kept for yourself for personal basic needs. That should be our goal. So we have to get to that goal. So if you're making more, you're also able to give more to Krishna, back to Krishna. Because otherwise that money will be used by the karmi people for nonsense things which you could have used for Krishna's seva. But not by working extra or harder, just by improving your skill set and intelligentsia. Anita Mataji, you wanted to share? Please go ahead.
Hare Krishna Mataji, very nicely explained, and also Prabhuji explained very nicely. I just want to share my learning that I just learned from Gita. So even Lord Shri Krishna instructs Arjuna to do his prescribed duty as a Kshatriya, which was to fight and do his conditional duty in the best way, and also do your constitutional duty. It's not that he was saying that do one of them, do both, but do your best for whatever you are doing. So like, chapter 2 somewhere we saw that how Arjuna was confused. He was like, okay, let me just take Krishna consciousness and then forget about the fight. I'll just go to the forest and do the meditation. Krishna scolded him very badly. He was like, I cannot tolerate you, or this, even he called him stupid, that you are just acting as stupid here. So you are put in a condition here to fight, and you have to do that. So I think for all of us, it's to take the inspiration even from the direct words coming out from Krishna, that we have to give our best for the conditional duty as well. May it be we are student, or may it be we are parent, or whatever it is, we have to do our best.
Yes, Mataji. For those that are not familiar, conditional means body related duties or material, and constitutional means spiritual, because our constitutional position is for spirit soul. We are spirit soul. That is our constitutional position. We are servant of Krishna. So constitutional caters to spiritual aspect, and conditional means material or body related aspect. So Mataji is saying do both, like Krishna instructs. Okay, Hari Bol, thank you. Very nice discussion. Anybody else has any questions, thoughts? Okay, let's go to our chanting.